Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Our guest today is Kristina Amelong. Please prepare yourself to hear what I think is an amazing story. It's got a happy ending, but there are parts of it they're going to be hard to hear. Kristina had a younger brother named Jay, who began to say calmly when he was very young that he was going to die young. He wouldn't live very long and he would die on his bike. He even predicted the color of the car that was going to kill him. Well, you know, he was a kid. I mean, kids say funny things sometimes, but sure enough, when Jay was 13 and Kristina was 17, it all happened one day exactly as he had predicted it. This was something which, I mean, try to imagine this. She is 17 years old. And she was plunged at this point into a psychological mess, and that lasted for decades. And as you can imagine, she had trouble dealing with it. She had a lot of trouble dealing with it, in fact. And her new book, just out, is called What My Brother Knew. It's an emotionally gripping, eventually spiritually triumphant memoir of Kristina's life, her discoveries, and where she is now. She tells us that she had a working-class childhood in Madison, Wisconsin, and that it was filled with abuse, addiction, and loss. That was a big loss. But she has managed to overcome all of that and a chronic illness as well and raise 4 children. She even founded a successful holistic health business called the Optimal Health Network. I mean, it's lovely to see someone triumph in the end over those kinds of setbacks. But she had addiction. I think she even had drunk issues, all kinds of issues. She's developed, though, natural protocols which have helped thousands of people to heal from a wide range of digestive and other chronic issues. Her first book before her new memoir was 10 Days to Optimal Health. That sounds great, actually, to me, because I know a lot of people who need that book. It's a guide to nutritional therapy and colon cleansing. Kristina is now a senior board member, too, for the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to a reweaving of the human story that she tells us will guide humanity through the current evolutionary crisis. I want to talk to her about that. I'm not sure what she means, but she'll tell us. She adds that she has a passion for photography, gardening, and backyard chicken raising. And I just met 2 of her newest baby chicks. Also pickleball. Now, pickleball is something which people are starting to pick up, and I never even played any of the other kinds of balls. So that's another thing we can probably talk about too. She has dogs and grand dogs, and she walks them on frozen Wisconsin lakes each winter. So she has recovered very well from what was a horrible, horrible beginning. Kristina, welcome. It's so good to have you here today. What a fascinating life you've led.
Thank you so much, Roberta. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm very touched by that introduction. Wow.
I mean, you have been through so much. When someone goes through a lot, there really are, as you know, there probably are more than 2 ways, but there are basically 2 things you can do. You can say, well, that's it. I had a bad start, and where's the booze? Or you can say, I'm going to beat it. Whatever has me down, I'm not down for long. And it looks as if you decided that was what you were going to say to it in the end, but not at first. Where did you go from there?
From when Jay was killed, basically, or?
You were 17. You were a kid, too.
Yes.
I mean, and you say you had a childhood also of abuse. I didn't see that much of that because I only read the first part of your book. That's as far as I got before my career kind of beat me up, and suddenly it was time to record with you. So. Lousy, lousy, lousy. Whoops, my brother's dead. Lousy, lousy.
Lousy.
Yeah.
Very lousy.
Okay. And now look at you. You're a lovely woman who is leading this fascinating life that includes pickleball. I mean, that to me is a triumphal life. You're helping people with their problems too. Very few people have led that kind of life. That's a triumphal life. And you say that it turned into a very spiritual life too. That is, I mean, I am very impressed with you.
Well, it's interesting because even today, right? Like there's loneliness, there's pain, there's suffering. And so I don't always feel full of the truth of what you're saying. So I'm just swimming in your witness and enjoying it very, very much. So thank you. Thank you. And it is true. And yeah, so Jay, I'll just start with the way in which the whole Jay thing went down, which is detailed in the book. But what my brother knew, this wonderful, wonderful, emotionally charged, gorgeously written memoir that you just spoke of. But yeah, when he was 12 and I was 16, he started talking about his death. And he always told my mother and I that it had something to do with dreams. There's even a scene in there where he says, I had these dreams. And, but as we were talking before this all started, like this is such an unusual situation. And I've never met anyone who's known someone who saw their death in the future. So I'm super curious also about what you know. And I even have researched the dream database from Harvard Divinity School, and no dreams at all like that from a young, healthy, popular, happy, non-depressive person talking about, I'm not living long. Here's some detail and it's okay. That part about it's okay is just still puzzling to me in this moment. And so, but for a year and a half, he was telling different people, my mother was haunted by the whole thing. She was trying to stop it. She was grounding him. She was keeping a close eye on him. She was making phone calls to friends in the middle of the night, crying, what am I going to do about this?
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah. And so she was really trying to stop it and unsuccessfully. And even there's one story in the book where he, the day before it happens, he goes, so he's grounded, but my mother needs a sprinkler and she's about to pick up her keys and get in her car and drive to JCPenney's and buy herself a sprinkler. And Jay says, no, I'll go because it's just a bike ride across a big park. And he's like, no, I'll go get you your sprinkler. And she's like, okay, but you got to come right back. And, there's basically only 2 streets to cross in order to get there because you mostly go through this really big park. And he was the newspaper boy. I found out much later he was also dealing marijuana, but he went to the store and he didn't just buy the sprinkler. He comes home a little while later and he bought her birthday present. And this was on May 26th and her birthday is on July 3rd. And he gives her the birthday present and says, just in case, on May 26th, and he dies the next day, right? And he also, strangely, and how does the universe work that all these pieces come together? He bought the newly produced album by Van Halen called Fair Warning. that also has that song in it about Strike That Poor Boy Down. And that is the album that they were listening to right before it all happened. I tried to use the quote in the book, but you can't do that without copyright permission, sadly. But this happened exactly as I'm telling you. And he was just completely fine with walking to his death.
Yeah, no, that is an amazing story. Amazing story.
Yeah, and partly why I feel so, honored that I was able to create this book with the help of a community is that I felt it'll be 44 years when the book comes out on May 27th, is I carry this torch of this incredible story that is unlike pretty much any other story I've ever heard, that a young boy is not traumatized or unhappy, who knows, he has the precognition up to a year and a half before it happened. And it's a very violent death. He's pulled under the car. His body is kind of ripped up, stretched. He's made quite a bit taller and his head is quite, it's very, very horrible. And I saw his body right after he died. He lived for 2 hours after he was hit. And part of the book is me going back and talking to friends, because when he died, I lost contact with pretty much all the people who knew him. And so, like, for instance, there's this one moment in the book where I find out from someone that he's got this best friend named Todd, and I reach out to him, and he's just about to grab a milk at the grocery store, and he sees this text from Kristina Amelong, and it's 40 years later, and he drops the milk. He walks out of the grocery store, he's sobbing, and he goes to his car and he's crying, and then he texts me back. But then we meet and we get to have this whole exchange. And there's so much healing that happens in the process, because not only do I learn that many of the people who were close to Jay at the time, so many of them were still stuck in the pain, in the blame, in the grief, in the tragedy. And so it's been such a gift to be able to reconnect with these people and just to, reconnect with humanity about this thing. Like, there's something really amazing about being a human being, that death is not the end of the story, right? So one of the things that Jay would tell us is that he would be up above his body, watching the paramedics try to bring him back to life, and that they wouldn't be able to. In his past, he saw the future of himself looking down on himself, and they wouldn't be able to. So, right. Yeah, Roberta, how do we make sense of this?
Well, I understand. I understand it, but it is the part that is surprising to me is that it didn't upset him.
Yeah, the only upset he had, and this is even like a thing, right? Like, I need you guys to know, which made it all, for my mother in particular, it made it all the more tragic.
Yeah, but if this were a non-fatal thing, that he could see an event in his life in the future is possible. There is no time in the astral, which is where the afterlife is. So, and we can go to the astral plane. He could, with the help of his spirit guide, go to the astral plane and be awake there while his body slept. So he could have had a waking dream and be shown the future. That could have happened. Let's assume it was a birthday party. I'm going to see my birthday party when I'm turning 14. And they could have shown him his future birthday party. And he could have told you about that in detail. And then when it happened, he could have said, see, I predicted this. All of that is possible, Kristina. But to foresee his death that way is very creepy to me. They would not have shown him his death that way. They would not have done that. And I just think it's very weird.
Well, and so one of the things that I learned from doing the research and talking to people is that, I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and right close to the university. And there was a lot of kids that we hung out with that had older siblings. And it turns out he wasn't just using marijuana, which a lot of us were, and alcohol starting when we were 12, 13, 14.
So, oh my goodness, you guys were really wild.
It seems that way. So there was a lot of drugs in my neighborhood, in this working class. Well, it was a very mixed class neighborhood. But rumor has it, from talking to, and I had like 3 people confirm this, that he had been using LSD.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so now, does that make a little bit more sense to you? I don't know how that all works about the astral plane and the guides and what they'll show and what they won't show. But he had no upset about it. But he told, and this is also in the book, he told his friend Stevie, who turned into a heroin addict and a bum and basically, very tough life. When you're talking about people not recovering from this, I ran into a lot of that when I was researching the book. People who, were very much stuck in the past and were in a very intense self-destructive path. So that was one of them. And I was a little suspicious about that because a lot of what he was saying was kind of out there. And
all right, so let's think now. What year was this roughly?
So he was hit by the car in 1981, but it would have been like, 1979. When,
70s. The 70s were a wild time.
Yeah, and the thing is that I went to a consciousness conference, and here in Madison at Promega Pharmacy, they have a once-a-year consciousness conference where they talk about psychedelics a lot. And I met someone who grew up in Madison who, when I told him this possibility, he said, "Oh yeah, we were all doing LSD as teenagers." And I'm like, I missed that. Which surprises me because I was pretty into things. But
yeah, he may have been on an LSD trip. It may be that was what was going on.
Yeah, and I've heard like people using LSD to help like older people who are dying, or people who are dying, or people who want to get more friendly with death, using LSD for healing. But I've never heard of someone having such precognition, and then also this quality, right, of being okay with it. It's not like Jay was like, "Oh my God, I saw this vision and now help me stop it."
Well, the thing is, the reality is, if they did take him to the astral plane and give him a waking experience of it, and tell him it's going to be fine, he would have believed him. Because if he was awake in the astral plane, he would have seen that it was going to be fine. If it was a deep enough experience of being there, he would have lost all fear of death. So that may in fact be what happened. That his guides took him there and said, "This is what's going to happen," and they actually showed him the experience, and they would have been able to show him that experience. And I think that's actually what happened, Kristina. I think that his guides took him to the astral plane. And if it was facilitated by LSD, maybe that's exactly what happened. Because I don't know, but that was a really bad drug. They could do all kinds of things with LSD.
Yeah. And so when you talk about it being, now I want to know more from you. Like when you talk about it being fine.
Here's the thing. I mean, I have been to the astral plane myself a number of times with my spirit guide. It is so different from being here that you're there, you're not here. And the very atmosphere that you breathe is love. It is only love. And You know truth when you hear truth.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had had a genuine experience in the astral plane, he was like 12, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they have said that you're about to come here. It's going to be fine. He would have been very happy about it.
So if he's a happy kid living a normal life, delivering newspapers, playing hockey and baseball, and he's got no context for that, how does that synthesize within oneself psychologically? And also this question about here, nobody's okay with it,
Yeah.
like there's a big gap between his experience, him wanting to tell us so persistently, and this.
Well, yeah, but he would have known it would make you feel bad that he had died. But he wants you to know you don't have to worry because it's so much better there than here, and I can hardly wait.
And yeah, we don't want to be promoting suicide. That is one thing that I've worried about too, and so how do we think about this? How do we help the audience think about this? How do I help people I'm talking to think about this in terms of?
We come here for a purpose. We come here to learn and to grow spiritually. And it's a precious time of learning. It's sort of like you just got accepted to the best university in existence. And you want to learn everything you can. That's the earth. You want to learn everything here that you can because this is the only place that you could learn and grow spiritually. So you want to learn a lot.
I feel that way.
Okay. Well, the reason you want to learn a lot is the more you learn here, the more there is for you to do when you get there. Because you can only advance there as high as possible as your own consciousness level will allow. And love is the gauge. Here you're learning how to ever more perfectly love. That's really the only thing we're here to learn. That's it. And consciousness, and if you've been to consciousness courses, you've learned that love is the highest vibration. Fear, anger, hatred, that's the lowest vibration. So you're learning to raise your vibration away from negativity and more toward perfect love, right? That's why you're here.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you're not going to hurry away from here. You're going to try to learn as much as you can here about love. So people want to stay here and learn as much as they can. But your brother, who was a kid, was told, you're about to graduate. But the good news is you're going to love it there. Look around you. And he would have said, okay, I'm ready to come right now. Let me stay right now. No, it's going to be soon though. And that's what he was told. I'm sure that's what happened. So he woke up and he said, Mom, guess what? Guess I'm going to the neatest place. It's better than Disneyland. Even better. And that's what happened. I'm sure that's what happened. Now it makes sense to me. That's why he would have seen it that way. If he looked around there, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Everybody is so happy. He would have seen there are other people there that he could be with, that he could play with. There were guys. They're beautiful. Everybody is beautiful. All the people are beautiful. Everybody is loving. Oh, yeah. I mean, he even could have met Jesus that night. Anything. Oh, beautiful stuff. But there's no other explanation I can think of for why he would have been without any fear.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
he'd actually have been there and seen it.
Yeah. So the astral plane, you call it.
Astral plane. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Well, and certainly another story in the book is about, and this is the closest I've gotten to the astral plane, is I meet this woman who had a near-death experience. She was electrocuted, and she went, she never called it that, but she went out into the cosmos, and she had a profound cosmic experience where she was very much infused with that quality of, I really like it here, and it's full of
she was in the astral as well. Yes.
Yeah. And the universe loves questions. That's one of the big things that she came away with. And so she had been, and this is something, so I think this is part of your mission, right, Roberta, is to like help people have access to that, the continuity of consciousness, that there is this soul journey, before this lifetime and after this lifetime, and that it's actually a beautiful continuation that we have in store for us. But I have to tell you that, I'm 61 years old already, and you don't meet a lot of people who have access to this. And that hurts me even today. I feel like, just like Jay, I want people to know. So here we are.
Absolutely. Oh, of course, because it's all good news. That's the glorious thing about it. It's all good news. And it's not hard. It's easy. Growing spiritually is so easy.
It's very beautiful. It's quite beautiful. Yeah. It feels like quite an honor, and it feels like you have a taste of your infinity within your daily life, in your consciousness that is so restoring to the psyche. I think so many people go to therapy and they're trying to heal their wounds or whatever. But I have found if you don't find that pathway to your own infinity somehow, that it's really hard to actually have the kind of healing that you're looking for, where you can put your own personal suffering in context. And so I completely agree with you that the deeper I go into my own awakening, the more I do feel that sense of infinity and sense of everything that I'm learning here and growing around here, and all the people I'm loving and having contact with. And like you mentioned, my business at Optimal Health Network, the way that I actually help people's lives improve, that all somehow it's almost like pressed on the lips of God, and it gets woven into the fabric of space-time in such a way that shifts everything. Each one of us has that capacity. So how beautiful is that, right?
It is. But part of the problem is that religions in general tend to be negative. They tend to make people fearful that they're going to make a mistake. They might get the wrong denomination, or somehow they're fear-based. Christianity is, and they all are. Every religion I've ever studied, and I've studied quite a lot of them, is basically fear-based. And that's really unfortunate. They don't need to be. They should not be.
Yeah, I agree. And that's very much the work that we're doing at the Center for World Philosophy and Religion. Is really
about your center there. Tell us more about that.
So I met Barbara Marx Hubbard. Had you heard her name? Barbara Marx Hubbard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met her back in 2016 or something, and started studying with her because she had this notion of conscious evolution and the idea that our personal growth actually impacts all, just like I was speaking about, but she called it conscious evolution. And, her teachers were like Teilhard de Chardin and Jonas Salk and et cetera. And so she started working with the center. And at that point, it was called the Center for Integral Wisdom, started by Ken Wilber and Dr. Mark Goffney and Zach Stein and Sally Kempton. And so I was teaching contemplative writing for Barbara for one of her courses, which is how I wrote the book, is by doing contemplative writing in the tradition of Natalie Goldberg and Julia Cameron. And so I started studying with Barbara and Mark, and we started what's called now One Mountain, Many Paths, but it was Evolutionary Church. So every Sunday we have a live broadcast. And also we just did a mystery school in Europe. I just got back on Friday night from the mystery school, and we also have a board meeting, but we're working on creating this great library. So for instance, The Evolution of Love, From Quirks to Culture. That's one of the books that we're putting out, that just dropped, in Culture. And so we're working to synthesize all the wisdom traditions and the science that points to what you're talking about and the best of the religions into a new story for humanity to take us through the meta crisis. We call it cosmoerotic humanism, and it really is about the evolution of love. Like, how do we take love out of this, like, Hallmark card, small, like, I love, kind of ethnocentric, I love just the people around me or my family or my spouse or my kids. And how do we really expand our capacity to live as love and to love, make our love list much bigger and to really be that in our bodies. And in that way, live into the future that we want to see and work through all the meta crisis, whether it's like the taking over from AI or the threat of nuclear war or just any kind of war, the environmental degradation. But it's a response to the meta crisis, this whole set of work that we're doing. And it's awesome. I love it.
And so you have something that you're working on that feels beautiful to you. That's right. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. And, I was in Europe for 19 days. So for instance, I didn't see clients, but this week I have 35 clients that I'm working with through Optimal Health Network. So
I should see 35 people in 1 week. I think I would just tell me now.
Well, I have a great staff, and I have a wonderful structure where I can give someone a lot of resource without it taking too much out of me. So,
oh my, I've never managed to do that. Unfortunately, I can do just a few. Be careful, With I never wanted to work with much staff, a little staff, but not much.
Yeah.
Whenever I tried to, I felt I was not giving up myself, and that to me was the important thing that I needed to give. So I never went in that direction. I admire that you're able to.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can't do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to the point in your life where you just do what feels right in your direction. You just don't. I can't clone myself.
Well, yeah, and that is super helpful to do that. But in turn, you asked me at the beginning when we first came on if Jay had ever communicated to me, and I was talking to you about, well, maybe, but there was so much trauma around it and so much silence. Like, I wasn't allowed to talk about it or bring it up to my mother.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So much silence and silencing. But so the container of potentially Jay talking to us, one thing is that just as a little bit of a side, my mother had a lot of nightmares that involved him. And also there was things like, she swears that she had made his bed perfectly, and she would hear noises in his bedroom, and she would go in there and the bed looked like it had been jumped on, pictures falling off the wall, footprints in the house, muddy footprints, as if someone had been in the house after she had just cleaned the house. So she did share a few of those experiences. And then for myself, it's all really come in synchronicity. So for instance, when you talk about my business, I got chronically ill in my early 30s, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And the doctors were like, let's cut out your colon, or let's, it wasn't good, and it wasn't helpful. And thank God I never had any surgeries or catheter ablations or all these things. But a friend told me to check out colon hydrotherapy. And so I did that. and there was nobody local. And I was running a restaurant. I owned a restaurant at the time, and I was starting to get burned out. And so I decided to open a colon therapy clinic, which right away was very successful and wonderful to work with people. I think my first week of being open, I had like 20 clients, and then they wrote about the clinic in the local Madison newspaper, the Isthmus. But then very quickly, this guy comes to me from Chicago who had been hit by a car while he was riding his bike, and he had the same name as Jay. And he was looking for somebody to open up an enema store online. And this was in, 2000. So the internet businesses weren't something, that
you're right.
Yeah. So he told me, you need to open up an enema store. But I had been taught by the colon therapy school that enemas were like the evil cousin, and you needed to stay away from enemas because they didn't help people and blah, blah, blah. So I had been told to stay away from enemas, but the instant he said to me, you need to open up an enema store, because he had the same accident as Jay and he had the same name as Jay.
Oh my heavens, yes.
And then another part of that story was that a month prior, a woman came to me for a colonic, and she had the same initials as Jay, which isn't a big deal, but she was born on the same day, the same month, and the same year as Jay. And she was a webmaster. And so she and he and I, within a month from him saying, you need to open up an enema store, we had an enema store. And that is a perfect example of how Jay communicates in my life. Like, he led me to
your life, for heaven's sake. Yeah.
He led me to Barbara Marx Hubbard. So many different synchronicities that have happened, like on his birthday or on his death day. Like I didn't tell the publisher when to publish this book. And even in the book, because you go through a book time and time again and you constantly find errors. It's kind of shocking, but his death day was wrong. It was the day before his death day, and still they picked his death day to publish the book. So, yes, he seems to be quite present in the way that reality gets organized around me.
Yeah, what's fascinating about, what many things are fascinating about our loved ones who've gone ahead, but they will communicate with us in ways that they know we will recognize, but that are bearable for us. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they were walking around our house all the time and talking to us, it would freak us out. But
I don't know. I think I'd like that.
At this point, perhaps. But, 25 years ago, you would have probably been.
No. Well, and interesting that you say that, because I do, when someone dies, like when Barbara Marx Hubbard died, there was like 3 days after she died where, do you know how like you're just in your house and everything's normal, but then you'll have like a sense perception and it flashes, like 4, 5, 6 times, like I'd like be drawn to look up, and there would be Barbara shimmering, in the hall or something, and it would go away instantly. What?
Were you okay with that?
I loved it. Yes.
Yeah, but you were a lot more sophisticated by then, right?
Yes. So I have had that happen a few times, but I have to say to the spirits, like, it's okay if you want to hang out with me more, because I wouldn't mind talking to you.
Yeah, you're more sophisticated now. Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, my spirit guide is around me all the time, and I often see him. But if he had started out that way, I think I would have. I don't know what I would have done, but I certainly would not have been ready. So. They know, they are very, very good at sensing when we are ready. They have a lot more.
You think everyone has spirit guides?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we all do. Somebody that's been with us right from the planning of this lifetime. And they virtually always are with us through our lives. The only reason that they might step back and have somebody else to step in would be if we change substantially in what we're going to do with our lives. Then sometimes there'll be somebody who's an expert at what the new thing is that we're doing, but we usually don't replace our guides. They usually are with us through life.
Interesting.
And it's a very close relationship. It's a wonderful relationship. I really urge people to try to make that relationship happen in a way that we're aware of. But in most cases, our spirit guides would just as soon stay behind the scenes and work with us sort of underneath the radar. I don't know why. Well, actually, I guess I probably do know why. It's more efficient for them to sort of, we tend to think, I have an intuition that says this or that. They would prefer to be our intuition, kind of. Some secret little voice that's always talking to us. They would prefer to be that.
Interesting.
Then be really in control. But anyway, we're coming to the end of our time. What do you want people to take away from our conversation today?
That there's this beautiful journey of turning grief into awe and wonder. And as I've said many times in this process, like of getting in touch with one's own infinity and cosmic nature. I think that's very much something. Also, read the book. I think you'll be very moved by the book. It's a deep journey into what we've been talking about, but even more about like my mother's journey around her dying, around my own emotional healing and how I went about doing that, from being in the 12-step programs to doing peer counseling. Also all this stuff about, that even as you're talking, like whether it's about our spirit guides or having deeper access to our own capacities for working with the space-time continuum in unique ways, whether it's precognition or just impacting for the whole, for the good. And also that, like, not turning away from our pain, that there really is this intersection between trauma and spirituality that is full of profound gifts. And as you were saying, too, not just about what happens to us in this lifetime, but what like our capacities in all the lifetimes. So how's that?
That's very, very good here. No, it's true that life is eternal. If you're living now, you always have lived and you always will live. And one way you can be certain of that is, in reality, life is eternal because there's no time. So in non-time, you always exist.
Yeah.
Which is a glorious, you will get it right sooner or later. If it takes you longer, that's okay, because you get all the time in the world. And I think your book is beautiful because I did sneak ahead and look at a bunch of pages. I think your book is beautiful because you got some stuff wrong, but you went anyway to try to get it right later on. And I think it's important for people to know that you can get stuff wrong and just keep trying. This is a wonderfully liberating thought. The only difference anyone has ever been able to find between the great successes and the people who fail are that the people who succeeded tried one more time. That's the only difference. So if you just keep trying, you're going to win at the level you need to win at. That's what life is. And I think that your story is beautiful because look at what you've achieved. And even though you floundered around, you really floundered around a lot in the beginning. And you darn it, you had a right to, because of what had happened to you. And that story is downright amazing. Although I think we know how it happened. And I'm comforted to know that they did that beautiful thing, that the spirit guides and the beings did that beautiful thing for that young boy, very young boy. who was about to come to them, they said, don't worry, don't be afraid. It's going to be fine. Look where you're coming. Isn't it beautiful? And he said, yeah, hey, let me in here. And told his mom, this is where I'm going, and it's going to be great. And she said, no, you don't you dare do that. But, that's the way life is. So anyway, I'll be right back. Just got to go tell everybody who our next guest is going to be, but I'll be right back. Oh, my dear friends, hasn't this been fascinating? Oh, my word. But look how she has grown spiritually from being a kid. She was a kid too. She was 17. And she was totally demoralized and destroyed by that horrible experience of losing her brother, and the description of her brother that she saw after he had just literally died from that accident. What a terrible, terrible thing for a young girl to see. But look how triumphant she is now. And there she was with her baby chicks. Now she raises baby chicks. Oh, my goodness. And we never did get to talk about pickleball. I'm going to have her back to talk about pickleball. Anyway, once again, my beloved friends, we've come to the end of our time. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Never, never forget, my darling friends, you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began. You never will end. And when you get that and all the implications of that glorious fact, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be our much treasured eternal friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan. He'll be with us for the 49th time. Oh, he must be sick of us by now. Dr. Hogan was our very first Seek Reality guest when we began this podcast in 2013. And he is really, of all the afterlife experts and teachers, he and his primary website together, seekreality.com, are the go-to place to learn everything you want to know about the afterlife, every question definitively answered, because finally now humankind really does have pretty much all the answers. Having Craig with us is always fun. We always find something interesting and new to talk about. So please be sure to join us next week. And this week we've been talking with Kristina Amelong. She's been with us for the first time, but I don't think it's going to be the last, because we have to find out how her chickens turned out. If nothing else, they're the fancy kind that lays colored eggs. Then you don't have to color them for Easter. It's actually a saving to raise your own chickens that lay colored eggs. Her story is amazing. When her younger brother was very young, he began to predict that he was about to die. And we've even figured out, I think, how he knew it. At 13, he did die, and he died the way he predicted he would die exactly. And she was only 17, and it demoralized her so much that for the next 30 or so years, as I think I can recall from the book, she tried drugs, and she tried all kinds of horrible things, drinking and so on. And this was in the 70s, and early 80s. So it was a time when people were doing all kinds of things they shouldn't have done. But she has turned her life around beautifully, as you've heard. She's doing spiritual things. She's just a delight to talk with. In fact, we never even got to the book, really. We were too busy talking about life. Her book is just out as you're hearing this the first time. Her book is called What My Brother Knew. And the book is piercing, tender. It's a memoir, really, of her own life, full of emotion, and ultimately it's spiritually triumphant. And so I really recommend it. I'm going to finish reading it, but I've only read, I think, the first quarter because I had so many other things that I had to do but after it arrived and before we did this interview. But most important, I really want you to know and to remember, think of how the beings that take over and watch over, take care of us and watch over us, when they knew that young boy was about to come to them, they carefully told him, look, this is what's going to happen to you, but don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. And they even showed him the accident and said, look where you're going to come. Isn't this wonderful? So he wasn't afraid. That's how much we are loved. Never forget how much we are all loved. But again, once more, Go to Craig and learn the fact that you are always going to be alive. Learn the beautiful truth about where we're going, because like it or not, your life is eternal. This is just a brief sojourn in this on this not very attractive actually planet when you come to think of it. But eternal life is beautiful and it's all under God's control. So learn about that. It's going to cheer you up like you would not believe. And this literally is all the time we have left. So meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy, please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing for certain that you are a powerful, eternal being. And you, most of all, in this entire universe, you in particular are infinitely, eternally, and always perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.